Good morning and welcome. This is Sunrise Daily. It is the 4th day in the month of April 2023. I'm Ayo Makinde.
The nation's commercial capital beckons. Join us on the money side of things. Why did I say that? I'm
Yes, it's still early in the beautiful month of spring. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
And from the Federal Capital Territory, thank you for staying with us. I'm Nel Taigbe. Welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Well, it would seem like it's the battle of capitals.
Oh, yeah.
The one in Nigeria, well, he's just spoken about that one. Lagos is a former capital. Abuja is the current capital in Nigeria.
Yeah. So let's go to a commercial capital. I mean, there's Washington, D.C. in the U.S., but then there's a commercial capital, New York. That's where a lot of things are happening today. So we're starting outside the country and maybe try to learn some lessons, if you will, or make of it what you will. And we're talking about the case involving former U.S. President Donald Trump. Well, he's expected to actually turn himself into law enforcement today, which is Tuesday. Of course, it's still Monday in the U.S., sort of, where he's expected to turn himself into law enforcement today to face more than 30 criminal charges in a Manhattan court following last week's grand jury indictment. This is breaking records in a lot of ways. The first former U.S. or sitting U.S. president to actually be indicted in such manner. And just to run you through, just in case you've not been following this actually ties back to that 2016 case which the district attorney's office has been investigating. Remember that well, his alleged role in the hush money payment scheme involving adult film star Stormy Daniels. And yes, it dates back rather to 2016 presidential election. So as you see now, we understand that the former U.S. president is in the Trump Tower, is prepping himself to perhaps turn himself in. And, you know, this is the first time again that you'll have a major case like this involving the Secret Service, because there were questions about whether or not he'll be handcuffed, whether or not there'll be a mugshot taken of him. But the lawyers are saying this has never happened before. They have never had to deal with a case involving someone who has Secret Service protection, you know, like a former U.S. president. So they're not sure if he will go the normal route and all of that. It's lots of lessons to learn for nations across. Yes, there's a politicking angle, there's the institutions angle and all of that, but also is how this will affect the coming elections. Over 70 million Americans voted for the former president. 74 million voted for him the last time out, 2020. Looks like he has a bid. Will that affect his numbers going forward? But more importantly is the lessons a lot of people are looking to this to learn and say, okay, it would be interesting if this were to happen in another climate.
Such as Africa?
Such as, I mean, Europe. I mean, the other
Why did you avoid Africa? Let's talk about Africa.
I mean, it's a global village. Yes, Africa, Europe, really everywhere. That there needs to be that uniformity. If things are found to have been done wrong, then nobody should be above the law, as we always say, guys.
Well, at the start of the conversation, you know, the sticking point for us was the strength of institutions. So whether it was when his organization was fingered in a tax fraud and was asked to pay 1.6 million naira by Supreme Court in the US, there was no technicality. So we're coming back home now. So he had to comply. You know, the individual in his company who was tried and sentenced to 5 months in jail, I think, had to comply. Whether it's this case or also the operative words is he's turning himself in. So we see the strength of institutions at work. And you said something earlier about, you know, the undecidedness, so to speak, of the institutions there, the representative of the institutions. Are they going to handcuff him because they've never had to deal with this kind of case before, where it's a former president that has been indicted? what will this do now to the office of the presidency in America? Don't forget, he's a former president, and he has a 2024 White House bid. So if we see an indicted president in handcuff and he has a White House bid, what's going to happen to that office? You know, the image of that office. What's going to happen? What implications does it have? And we all saw the groundswell of opposition in the United States, or the division, so to speak. I think there was a balance, because for me, Trump is the most vilified American president in history.
And he still has that support. 74 million people voted for him.
That's debatable, you know, because there's another side of the divide, you know, that believes that, you know, he's a great American president. He fulfilled his promises. There's another side that, you know, thinks that the weight of, you know, baggage of the office of the American president at the time of, you know, Trump's presidency was a bit too much. So what's going to happen to it as a result of this indictment? I think we're waiting to see it during this 2024 White House bid. Is it going to survive this? Well, let's keep our fingers crossed.
Well, he's expected to be granted bail, of course, self-recognizance. He's known, right? He doesn't need to submit any bail conditions, because himself alone, and he's surrounded by Secret Service, and he said he will plead not guilty, and it's important to know that he trusts the institutions as well. So he's surrendering himself, saying, well, he's expected to surrender himself. We don't know if that might change in the coming hours. So he's planned to do that because he trusts the institutions to do the right
But don't
thing.
forget that he also says that he's being persecuted, you know, that it's all politics. It's being witch hunted. Well. Yeah.
Nyota?
You know, if one of the things he posted as a former U.S. president, one of the things he posted on his social media platform before he went out there was to New York to make America great again. So he still has hope in the fact that he can make America great again. But moving from there to the matter at hand is the fact that we're talking about building institutions that would outweigh and outlive individuals. It's really interesting that this kind of history is being made in the U.S., but something of the sort happened here on the African continent. The former South African president, Jacob Zuma, went to jail for 15 months for contempt of court. And then after that sentencing, after he finished that term in prison, he again was sent back to jail for another matter, all somewhat related. So when we build institutions, the nation thrives because the institutions are standing, not because individuals are doing whatever it is that they do. But when it is known that institutions can be trusted, then you find individuals yielding themselves to those institutions for the purpose of truth to prevail. Now, this matter, whether he's going to plead guilty or not guilty, is painting a picture of trust, as you already said, Coyote, in the institution. So I'm going to surrender myself before a judge for whatever reason, whether it's to campaign or whether to paint a picture that I am innocent, and then also raise support for his ambition, his presidential ambition in 2024. Well, that's out there for the jury to decide. But it's the picture of trust in the institutions. What can we do back home? What can we pull from this? What lessons can we draw from this in strengthening our institutions to the extent that when you're indicted in any way, or whether you're indicted or not indicted, but the fact that your name is mentioned in any matter, you can step forward and say, hey, I trust that these institutions, with the evidence I have, I can come up and prove my innocence. Or because this institution is strengthened and is standing and is independent. I mean, yesterday we were talking about management of public funds. How is that working out, where you find state governors or governors at whichever level, or leaders, depriving institutions like the Office of the Auditor General the independence that they need to be able to oversight their use or management of public funds? What does that say of our institutions? Does that speak well of us? Does that speak well of you as a leader, when you know that if I give this to this office that is oversighting me, they'll have more strength, they'll have more bite, then I will not be able to step out of line. Therefore, I will not give it to them. That doesn't speak well of us. That doesn't strengthen the institution. So in doing that, in saying this, I am hoping that our leaders and all of us here can also learn to strengthen the institutions, so that because when the institutions are strengthened, we as individuals and the nation as a whole is strengthened going forward?
You know, there are so many lessons, as Kari started by saying on this program this morning concerning this matter. I remember interviewing for Sunrise Daily Philip Asiodu, who is what he was once referred to as a super pansec. And one of the things that he said was that when the military took over in the 70s, forgive me guys, I have to go back in time.
We're used to
it. When the military, took over and the civil service was still in its onions, they stood up to the military and said, no, there are some things that are done in certain specific ways, and there are some things that couldn't be done in any particular way. And when the military wasn't really comfortable with that, I think that's the genesis of why the super panseks at the time were all retired. And there are those who contend that that is part of the reason why the institutions have become quite weak these days. So, because they were retired with nothing to fall back to. That's the popular opinion that is being held about that now. Who is going to strengthen the institutions, guys? It's individuals. Who is going to bail the cart? I guess that's what we have to debate and find out exactly who and how we're going to get to that, because it's been quite some years now. Now, as far as the United States of America is concerned, the institutions are strong enough to take on anyone. And I'm happy, Kadi, that you mentioned the fact that institutions are now contending with each other, not sure whether or not, because, hey, there's the one institution protecting this particular person, the former president of the U.S., who is being indicted, and there is another institution that is going to stand in defense of the law. How would... Bring it home. How would this happen in Nigeria? A question for us to contend, to debate on, and we will definitely get there. When we do, what will trump each other? Is it the institutions that will trump politics, or the other way around? No, I think that's Trump came right. Not quite well, but...
Pun intended.
That's just the way it is. Let's switch over to the papers and see what we have.
Yes, we're talking about strengthening institutions, and we're taking it back home, seeing how we can strengthen our own institutions. So whether it be the judiciary, whether it be the security agencies, we need to start from somewhere. So it seems as if, one of the first few institutions that we'll start with will be the security agencies. This is just picking up from the big story on the front page: security agencies and, of course, political parties. Gunshots in Port Harcourt as APC PDP supporters clash. Let's take a look at the riders over inspection of electoral materials. And listen to this one. Tonya Cole escapes being lynched. I believe that's the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State. PDP accuses APC of instigating violence. You'll find all the details on page 15. And of course, you can also catch that story on our YouTube channel. Just take a pushback, rewind button, or you search for News at 10. You find all of the details on our YouTube channel as well. Look at the bottom strip of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. You see this one that you would like to look forward to, especially as Nigeria begins to prepare for handover ceremonies. Rep speakership, PDP alliance plot suffers setback. Take a look at the riders. Wike, Ibori, back Wase. North Central deserves slot. Deputy Speaker, my beloved son. That's ascribed to the former governor of Ogun State, I believe, and APC chieftain or Shoba. You find all of those details on the inside page, page 2 to be precise. Just one more story before we exit the Nigerian Tribune. Let's go above the nameplate now to see more politics Cold War deepens. Cold War in APC NWC, that's National Working Committee, deepens. Let's take a look at the riders. Perhaps they'll provide some form of insight as to this Cold War. Northwest National Vice Chairman accuses Adamu of usurping powers of next National Caucus. That's page 16 read. Interesting one there, but get all of the details yourself. I'll leave you to do that. Let's leave it there now for the Nigerian Tribune.
Turn our attention to the leadership newspaper with this one on the 10th NAS leadership. Yes, the 9th leadership or 9th NAS is not out just yet, but considering the fact that it's just a few months, 2 months or so to the end, you know why this is a big one. Opposition parties brace for tough fight with APC. It used to be just, what, 2 or so opposition parties in the National Assembly, but this time they are way more than that. So it's going to be an interesting one. The riders will go with party that shares our ideology, NNPP. We're still monitoring development, LP. PDP alliance plot suffers setback as Wike Ibori back Wase. North Central Southwest senators will be the decider. That's a quote coming from somebody. So take a look at more details on the inside pages. Page 4 should give you more. Yeah, so that's a focus for the leadership newspaper. And just on top of that, you see the APC crisis story. Account for party funds, National Vice Chair tells Adamu. So, yeah, we've seen something play out with the national chairman of the PDP, some controversy around the national chairman of the Labour Party, which has been, well, to a large extent spoken to, but now with the APC, let's, you know, watch and wait, or wait and watch, wait and see.
Like the more powerful you become, the more controversy you find yourself in.
And you know that the controversy actually gives some mileage to some publicity. That's why a lot of people are looking at what's going on with the US former president. But we'll see how that plays out. Just one more for you this morning. I'm really spoiled for choice. Experts foresee Nigeria breaking epileptic power jinx. Okay. So you wonder
your response to your own headline kind of tells me that
it's a leadership headline.
Your own rendering of the headline tells me that you're not optimistic.
I am actually. I mean, I really am. That's one of the strategies we should have as Nigerians. Hope, work towards it, but never lose sight of what can be of this great nation. Let's leave it there for leadership newspaper.
This Nigeria, well, Bukola, you began to emphasize strong institutions. Well, the Auditor General's report is what this Nigerian newspaper is interested in this morning. Auditor General's report indicts 558 federal agencies. MDAs failed to disclose 969 billion naira in tangible assets details in budget. So, what? Okay, we know what an indictment has done in the US. What's this indictment going to bring? 558 federal agencies. Well, the story is on page 4.
Should be invited, of course.
Okay, right under the picture on the front page, Ohaneze, Northern Group condemned calls for interim government as Afenifere warns of threat against May 29 swearing in. Find the details on pages 5 and 14 of the paper, this Nigerian newspaper today. Oil prices soar as OPEC Plus cut monthly output. Details on the inside pages. That's this Nigerian newspaper this morning. Nyata.
Thank you, Ayo. And the New Telegraph is what we'll be taking from here, with the Harvest blazing headline: Nigeria's oil shipment stranded as European buyers shun product. 20 vessels hunting for customers. Sellers have limited options. These are some of the riders. Oil prices rise to almost year high as Brent hits $84.53 per barrel. OPEC confirmed surprise output target cut over 1 million barrels per day. They're cutting over 1 million barrels per day. Our story continues on page 2. And above the nameplate, benefits. FG to pay 3,077 dead workers' relatives 17.62 billion naira. 9,966 sacked employees get 6.3 billion. Well, you have to read this story, which continues on page 3 to find out exactly where all of that's coming from. That's coming from the national, they're going to be paid through the National Pension Commission. Okay, below that, and just below the nameplate, Senate Chief Whip Uzokalu, the sad one there, loses his wife. Illicit payment, Trump in New York to face criminal charges is on page 5. Reorganization, Navy appoints 128 Rear Admirals, Commodores, also on page 5. And then Raheem, judge orders Vandi to open defense. That's on page 6. Some stories there. If you come down, you see these are on beside the picture. 725 million naira, Banana Island property links to ex-Nimasa DG, temporarily forfeited to the federal government. Talking about, we're just talking about institutions, their independence and their effectiveness. Is this what we're going to see here? That story continues on page 6 and page 28 with the rider, EFCC defeats late Kashamu, property forfeited to anti-graft agency. And then this one on page 2, Senate uncovers shady deals in 558 MDAs worth 969 billion naira. Again, we see that thing about institutions when they are strengthened and allowed to function as they should, but beyond the discoveries, what will happen? Is there going to be some kind of persecution? Are there going to be gains for the nation as a whole, and a reprimand or punishment and rewards? Consequence management is one of those things we keep talking about on this show. Naseni, labor unions back 10-year extension for EVC. And then this last one here, APC crisis, Adamu Omishore leading without constitution. Look, man, check page 4 and 26 for details. And that's it from New Telegraph.
From there, let's flip to Daily Trust. Daily Trust takes a detour from politics and security this morning and focuses on the economy. You find the big story interesting. Take a look at this. Nigeria imports 300 billion naira palm oil in 6 years. Nigeria imports 300 billion, I had to take it again, 300 billion naira worth of palm oil in 6 years. Take a look at the riders. Get supply from Malaysia, India, China, Cameroon. A barrel sells for $600. The next one says, work vision needed to revamp sector. And you see the graph there that shows, the quantum of oil in terms of, currency imported from those countries mentioned. And, above the headline there, you see, despite dollar restriction. So why are we still importing palm oil? I believe there's a palm oil industry in abundance, I believe. In abundance in Nigeria's southeast and south-south. We have the palm trees in abundance. So the big question is why this kind of poverty amid plenty? I believe that, the subnationals have a lot of questions to answer in that regard. Right at the bottom strip, you find another one just as, unsettling. Nigeria struggling to find buyers for crude. Interesting one. Let's see if we can just take a look at some of the riders there. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust so that we can manage our time.
All right. The Daily Times leads with this one. Now, this story is in quotes, and you might need to get more details on the inside pages. It's a shocker. The Daily Times newspaper, there you go, 88 killed during 2023 polls. So that's how the Daily Times leads this morning. Who said that? Just how much proof has been provided for that as well? What is being done to get justice? If this is proven to be indeed true as it is said, a lot of questions really. Elections are meant to be a festival, not war, okay? It is a competition. 88.
It goes back to the issue we started with, Gowdy. The issue of institutions, knowing what to do and doing the right thing. It's not the first time we're hearing about electoral violence. During and post-electoral violence, it's not the first time. What's the deterrence? And you remember, Kayode and Bukola, that those are the issues that a number of resource persons we invited to come and talk, continue to harp on. There is no deterrence. Now, it's bad enough that one person was killed.
Really?
88 is quite a number.
There's a lot. In fact, I'm just going to leave it there, really, and just allow us to ponder, get more details, do more investigation into this one. That's the Daily Times.
The Guardian newspaper is perhaps also trying to stave off anything that is unhealthy for us. Look at the front page. Afenifere Ohaneze, Arewa youths reject interim government plot. Those who have a benefit of history will know what happened when we had one before. Adibanjo, Ajayi remains suspended, has no right to issue statement for Afenifere. Ndigbo, not part of any conspiracy, plans to attend Tinubu's swearing in. Decide presidential petitions before May 29. Agbakoba tells tribunal. Natives stage peaceful march. Vows to resist moves to truncate democratic rule. I don't even know if the people who are talking about it, not planning, just talking about it, I don't even know if they understand the implications. Will we still have a fourth republic with an interim government? I don't know. And right under the page, at the bottom of the page, worries over revenue, petrol scarcity as buyers shun Nigerian oil cargoes. Story you'll find on page 6. That's the Guardian newspaper this morning. Delta.
And the Vanguard is next with this leading headline: Return of Bandits. That's not good news. Gunmen terrorize Niger, Kaduna, Kogi, Bayelsa, Adamawa. And see the riders. Bandits kill 2 villagers, abduct 34, escape with arms in Niger. Gunmen kill APC ward chairman, other villagers in Kogi. Gunmen invade Adamawa community, kill 3. That's not good news at all. But you see more details of that story on page 5. Benue government secures 84 billion naira debt cancellation from the federal government. Unions back 2-year tenure extension. But see this one above the nameplate. Delta APC crisis deepens as party expels Omar Agege, that deputy Senate president. That's on page 12. Leadership position in NAS being bought. Dume claims on page 9. Kaduna Guba, PDP lawmakers elect, others vow to reclaim governorship mandate. But if you go up just above that is this one: Nigerian insurance breach local content law, lose 44 billion naira, is on page 19. Then a bit of sports at the bottom there. NFF Malls World Drum sack as Omagbemi is tipped to take over. Check page 31. And health news finally. 10,000 cervical cancer deaths in Nigeria, unacceptable. That's coming from scientists. And that's it from the Vanguard newspapers. And a look at some of the dailies. Sunrise Daily will be back in a moment. Don't go away.
Nigerian Army troops deployed for Operation Hadar and Daji and Forest Sanity have projected forces and intensified offensives to clear bandits' enclaves. This operation have destroyed criminal hideouts, neutralized several bandits, and subjected the remaining elements to situation where they are mostly either targeting civilians or they are on their own. We must therefore maintain the tempo and leave no stone unturned to sustain these commendable efforts. The peaceful conduct of general elections across the country, including in the southeast, despite the sense of insecurity created by criminal elements in the region, is a testament to our resolve to ensure security in the entire nation. Our additional efforts through Joint Task Force Operation Udoka paid off in the southeast, thus ensuring successful election in the region as well. Even though long before the actual election, IPOP and ESN and their supporters have threatened that there would be no elections in the zone. Let me state here that elections or no elections, neither IPOP, ESN, nor any other groups or individuals should threaten the integrity of this nation as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And that's where we start off from: curbing violence and insecurity across the country. Remember that headline story we had on Vanguard, return of bandits? Not too good a story. But then we'll start off here in Abuja with our guest, Barrister Felix Ogbaldu, is a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police. Thank you for joining us here.
Thank you very much for having me.
And in our Lagos, thank you. And in our Lagos studio, we have Alfred Ononubo, who's a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist, a security consultant. Thank you for joining us, Alfred.
Thank you very much.
Let's start out here. Barrister Ogbaldu, you are a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police.
Yeah.
When you are, if I say now, how would you assess the security situation in Nigeria at the moment? I mean, look at that story on the front page of the Vanguard, for instance, return of the bandits. That sounds like there was a time they were quiet, or they were non-existent, or it looks as if they left and then they're coming back now. So how would you assess the situation right now?
Well, we've had very serious security challenges in the past, and security agencies did their utmost best to contain the situation. There was even a point, I think it was the military was saying that Boko Haram had been decimated. We'll talk about that later. And when the elections started coming up, campaigns here and there before the elections actually took place, you know the way politicians in Nigeria behave. They recruit young persons as thugs, perpetrate violence and all of that. That's why we're degenerating to what the situation was like in the past. But it's not as bad as what it used to be many, many years back. That's the gospel truth. We've had a few cases of security breaches, attacks, people being killed, houses being burned in the states that were mentioned in one of the papers this morning. So it's worrisome, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'm very certain, very confident too that as security agencies will rise up to the occasion to contain the situation.
When you say I like you're confident, but how would the person or the Nigerian who reads this, knowing that during the elections proper, it was as if everywhere was quiet, and then suddenly there seemed to be one hit here, one hit there. What happened at that time? I mean, at that point in time, even the security personnel were spread across the country to monitor the elections. And so there was quiet. But now everybody's back to focus on security issues, not election issues. And it's as though the bandits are up again. What's amiss?
You see, this is the problem we've always had. When we have security challenges in certain areas, we deploy enough security men to contain the situation. And when normalcy is restored, they are pulled out completely. What we are supposed to be doing is, when you overcome a situation, make sure you sustain security presence in that place. When I saw the video clip on what happened in Kogi State, I was so sad. Number of security officers who were deployed to that place after the incident. And so the situation has returned back to normal and all of that. There must be security presence at all times. There must be security presence at all times. We don't have to. This fire brigade approach doesn't solve any problem. We must have adequate security presence all over the place. Then again, the various communities should also have their own security. Maybe vigilantes, for instance. If you go to some of the francophone countries that border Nigeria, if a stranger gets to any of those communities in less than 15 minutes, the village head or the traditional ruler, they will be informed. And the local security agents, operatives, will go and pick up that guy and say, my friend, who are you? Where are you from? What are you here for? And these are some of the measures we need to put in place here.
But
because security is a collective responsibility. We cannot all put all of this in the basket, on the shoulders of the security agencies. You know, the problem again is that even if you have all of that in Nigeria, the level of sustainability, the motivation, you know, and make sure that they are on their duties, perform their duties 24/7. Or no such monitoring facilities and all of that. That is a mistake we always make.
You know, the Nigeria police talks about community policing.
Yes.
And getting everybody involved.
Yes.
I even at the point they were appointing civilian constables. Is that not sustainable? And how effective has that been in curbing insecurity and ending violence?
Well, it is talking about sustainability. That is where the government has to do much more than what it is doing now. It's not just recruiting these guys and pushing them there and you turn your back against it. No, it doesn't work out that way. Monitor what they're doing, support them, ask them what they need to perform optimally. That's the situation. You see, because in this country, like I've always said, we don't want to prioritize security. I don't want to mention agencies and government partners, all of that, where so much money is spent for doing next to nothing. Well, in security, not much. Then you can imagine the number of personnel that security agencies lose on a daily basis or monthly basis or annually.
Let me take this to Mr. Onanubo. Mr. Onanubo, you are more or less like from the outside in. You're assessing the situation as a security consultant. I mean, the barrister here, Obaudu, has talked about deployment, motivation, the bringing in the community as a part of the security apparatus, and then prioritizing security. But what's your own take in terms of assessment of what the situation is?
Okay, I tend to agree with him. First, let me condole with the families of those who lost their lives recently in the recent attacks across the country. It's painful to repeat same thing over and over and over again. And while the people are getting insecure by the day, the environment seems to suggest we haven't yet found our way out of the woods. I also want to appreciate the efforts of the Nigerian security services. It's not a cheap task containing insurgency in the country. There are factors behind the inability of these agencies to put their feet on the head of the insurgency. However, we might have to rethink and begin to look at the institutions managing these challenges. We have the army, we have the police, we have the DSS, but the agents within these systems are products of our country. And like we often say, you can't get a clean fish from a poisoned pool. They have challenges probably affecting them either as individuals or as establishments.
Is that challenge part of the reason why intelligence fails?
Definitely it is. Because it takes, you might have applications.
Are you confirming that the intelligence fails? Because that was like a two-edged question.
They are human beings. Yes, intelligence fails. It's a global thing. It's not exclusive to Nigeria. The challenge, I think...
Is it at the level of gathering the intelligence?
No,
or?
I think it's at the level of developing the capital assets to engage the challenges.
But as Nyota asked the other time, before the elections, it would seem like they kind of took a nosedive. All these insurgencies kind of took a nosedive. And then during the elections, we weren't hearing much about them. And now, about a month after the elections, here we are again.
No, it's an assumption we're taking away because the political period introduced activities that took our minds probably off some of these activities of the criminals or the terrorists and insurgents and all the bandits across the country. And it will also be wrong to assume that they joined the political platforms to express themselves. However, it also there are elements of fact in the fact that there are possibilities that they had interests. They had people they felt should be able to address their concerns, and they saw them on the ballots And it will be unfair to say that we didn't see a decline in attacks across the country. The attacks did not escalate because our emphasis were on the politicians, their aspirations, and the process to produce them. So most people didn't focus, or the media generally didn't focus on the activities of these criminals.
I think the activities actually tapered down. In fact, there was a reference to, and maybe this is a challenge as well, to it being maybe as a result of the cashless economy policy of the government saying, okay, the request for ransom in cash has dropped. So I remember there was that charter as well. And don't forget, we've seen these non-state actors actually getting involved in elections. In some communities, we've seen bandits actually helping the residents in that community to get their PVCs, or at least to liaise and say, okay, you know what, for this period, you can do the whole PVC process. And I think you referenced that when you said maybe they are interested in the outcome of the election. So it's not as though attention wasn't paid to it, but it actually tapered down. If anything, we actually saw a lot of, clashes, political clashes. So you forgive people who thought maybe these people actually joined the campaigns and were a part of it. So to that extent, is it as a result of that cashless policy, the electioneering process, or something was gotten right?
There were several factors that came to play during the election. Yeah, the cashless policy could have probably affected their calculations. They had time to rethink and reorganize themselves and consider other options to survive if the cashless policy and the intentions of the government should come through. Having said that, we also had situations where, like I said, sometimes people try to deny, but there is a mix between politics and some of these insurgent activities. They are interrelated. And the key component of these conflicts remains territories and superiority battles. People want territories. People also want their interests served. So they are human beings, like I said. They are part of the process. They live with us. No one moves around with a tag as a terrorist. There are people who live within the society, either those colluding or accessories to it, or those that were actively engaged. So we have scopes that accommodated everybody during the election period. Now that the elections are over, I have looked back, and I think we might not be ready for what we have gotten from the election. The post-election consequence is that there were probabilities some of their interests failed. There were also the challenge of not having access to funds because of the new policies of the government. There were also the incitement coming from political class trying to ask their supporters to take a particular opinion on the outcome of the elections. So these are factors playing out right now. And the surge we are seeing doesn't seem like they were new. They were well thought out. You could see like what happened in the communities in Benue State. You could see that it was planned. And for 2 consecutive days in an instance, the bandits were hitting the communities non-stop. So the outcome, the post-election consequence seems also to have added some zest to the challenge of the activities of the terrorists.
And I'm glad you've drawn a correlation between the politics of it all and insecurity, which is why I'm wondering, just whether we're being a bit too lenient by attributing failure of intelligence, to security agencies, to the extent that in some of these areas where attacks have occurred, there was a history of political violence there. For instance, in Dekina local government in Kogi State is a political battleground of 2 political heavyweights in that state. And there was a history of attacks also in 2019. In Chikun local government in Kaduna, there have been attacks there over time. So shouldn't we be a little more intense in our scrutiny of the work of security agencies ahead of the elections, amid the elections where there was needless violence, despite the promise that security agents made that they were going to give them a bloody nose?
Well, factually, the security had a lot to deal with pre, during, and post-elections. However, I tend to believe that we have not just started experiencing these insurgencies and attacks. Some sort of plans and provisions should have been made to checkmate these attacks coming back again. The reason being that we never defeated or eliminated these challenges. They were there. Probably the election came as a distraction with all the stuff that came with the elections. Now the elections are over. Some of them probably don't have any other jobs to do. No more campaigns, no more PVCs to collect, no more candidates to campaign for or support. And from the way things are going, it looks like some candidates had some contacts, because if they didn't know some of the players in these activities, how they got to seize their hostilities during the political window still stands as a surprise to so many of us. Was it that there were some level of interaction or interface between the politicians and the terrorists or bandits? I mean, we have a difficulty, classifying these groups. So there are elements that we have to look at. We will be wrong to draw conclusion that yes, it's exclusively a security thing. There could be other factors that are influencing.
But isn't that the reason we have security agencies, to ensure that these things don't happen? Let me take that to Mr. Ogwaudu. One of the issues that you just heard Mr. Onanugo raise now is that indeed these things happened. We have security challenges in the area of security officials, intelligence failing, and all of those things. What do you make of that? The reason we have security agencies, the reason we have laws against crime and criminality is because there is the anticipation that such things could happen. And the primary responsibility of the police, it excites me to say this all the time, that the primary responsibility of the police is to prevent crime, not to fight it. So in that regard, it's assumed perhaps that the police should know well ahead in the event that these things should happen so as to forestall it. What do you make of that?
Well, thank you very much. If I got you very clearly, we've had intelligence gathering failures in the past. What I mean by that is that the intelligence we've had over time have not been sufficient. In some cases, no intelligence whatsoever. But the main issue is this. I would like to bring in some other new issues into this discussion. The first one is the absence of deterrence in this country that fuels so much of impunity. If we really want to have a secured nation, we can toe the line of nations like Saudi Arabia and Malaysia in their battle against drug trafficking. In these two nations, drug trafficking is a capital offense. That is why the citizens over there don't ever make the mistake of getting involved. But we still have Nigerians who leave this country with drugs, who go to all those countries. Some years back, I don't want to mention the name of the president who was in the office at the time, a number of Nigerians were on the death row, and the tribe led the delegation to the president and appealed to him that they should please appeal to the president of that nation to grant these guys some amnesty and all of that, to be released, to they should face the the wrath of the law. And the High Commissioner here, or the ambassador, told them very clearly, said that those laws are meant for their own citizens and non-citizens of these two countries. So in this country, in our own nation here in Nigeria, what I've always suggested in the past, and I want to suggest again today, let us give a period of 6 months, for instance, to mop up illegal firearms and sensitize the public enlightenment, sensitize them, submit within 6 months. After that, the National Assembly will come up with a legislation that will make illegal possession of firearms a capital offense. Actually, as I discussed with one of my colleagues, one of my very close friends, it's not so many years back, and he told me, my age, you mean if they arrest my son with a gun, he will be killed? I said, of course, yes. Why not? If you've been told, given enough notice that within such a period of time, if you have any gun illegally in your possession, go and surrender it, and you fail to comply, you reap what you sow. But back to your question, let me say too that the security agencies need to buckle up. They need to intensify the efforts in intelligence gathering and intelligence sharing. See, one thing is to gather intelligence, another is to work with it. And let me also add something to the statement you made that the duty of the police to prevent crime, not to fight it. That is not too right. Because what you cannot prevent, when it eventually happens, you must fight it. So fighting it too is part of their responsibility, you know. So it's a two-way something. So the security agencies need to sit up, gather more intelligence, shared intelligence, synergize, work together. There should be no acrimony, no unhealthy competition, and all of that. Because at the end of the day, it is the peace of this nation, maximum security, that will benefit everybody. Okay. Everybody.
Let me comment
because
now.
Like I've always said again, in the absence of security, no form of human endeavor takes place.
Absolutely.
So there should be no sentiments whatsoever. And there was this issue you talked about, this cashless policy which was introduced. Now, during the politics period, when people were campaigning and all of that, the elections came and went, a lot of those guys that were engaged are no longer engaged along that line. So they're now falling back to other crimes, not the ones they committed during the elections, like going to attack communities, you know, stealing, breaking things, killing and all of that, taking money. So these are the issues we're having in this country. Then again, our population is exploding, if it has not exploded already. We have a lot of youths, young persons, who are not employed. Right now, as soon as that cashless policy was put in place, there was no cash in circulation. There was so much hunger, frustration, poverty. And you can't believe, a number of times I sent my staff or my PAs to the bank to go and let me collect some money. They go spend hours and come and say, sir, we couldn't get cash. Why? And I had to reach out to 2 of my account officers in 2 different banks. I said, look, the governor of Central Bank said he has printed more than enough new currencies and given to the commercial banks. He said that he's not telling us the truth. And up till this moment, we still don't have enough new currencies. A lot of people are asking questions. What is the problem? Is that we don't have money to print more?
Quite a number of issues.
Or is it that the printing machines are broken down?
Right, quite a number of issues you have raised, traversing even different sectors, the financial sector, for example. But I'd like to quickly pick up on a point you made about deterrent earlier on. And you know, what we hear from the police, security agencies, the kind of signal, the messaging we hear is that we're on top of it. We're ready for anything that comes. In fact, I recall listening to one of the spokesperson recently saying, well, nobody's above the law. We're going to prosecute anybody and ensure that if you're found wanting, you'll be persecuted. But now hearing you talk about deterrent, and I wonder, Is it because the police or security agencies want to seem as though, okay, they've got things covered, then they come up with that messaging? But behind the scenes, when it's time to make policies or influence policy making, law making, do they lay these things bare and say, well, I mean, these laws are not helpful? Is that something that maybe you experienced during your time? So, yes, it's important to have the show of force, but in reality, if the laws are not, or the punishments are not enough to prevent, by the way, my colleague was saying the primary responsibility is to prevent, not as though that's the only responsibility. Then when that is missed, they can escalate to fighting and all of that. But behind the scenes, do we have security agencies, the police maybe primarily, raising this issue, saying the laws are not working, we need to tweak this law so that there is more deterrent? I don't know about the capital punishment for firearm possession, but in that line, really.
Sorry, let me give you another example of deterrence, where deterrence works. When Peter Obi was the governor of Anambra State, he contained kidnapping. How did he do it? If a kidnapped victim is traced to your house, the governor himself at that time, Mr. Peter Obi himself, will go with the police officers, with caterpillars, bulldozers and all of that, and the building will be brought down after the suspects have been rescued. And to a very large extent, that solved kidnapping problem in Anambra State. And that was a major achievement in terms of deterrence. We're in a country where we don't talk about equality before the law. We talk about inequality before the law. And it's not helping us, not taking us anywhere. Let me just mention something else that's not directly related to what I'm saying here. When you drive on the roads, on our streets here in Abuja, for instance, you see some political appointees, elected officers. Their plate numbers are covered with black nylon. And in those vehicles, you even find police officers, policemen there. Now the question is, why will somebody cover his plate number? If you're an ordinary citizen and you cover your plate number, the police, I'm sure, will harass you, will arrest you. You might be accused of wanting to use the vehicle for some criminal activities so that when you succeed and all of that, your vehicle number will not be known. But yet, some of these guys are up there are doing things like that. So we really need to re-strategize, change our modus operandi, whatever we do in this country. Doing the same thing the same way over and over and expecting different results, it doesn't work. It won't give us any results. We must change our modus operandi. Speaking
of doing things differently, okay, Mr. Ogbodo, and still on the wavelength of deterrence, after the elections, the conclusion of the process, the Inspector General of Police had said that over 700 persons were arrested for electoral violence. How strong is that a statement of deterrence to those who are perpetrating electoral violence? From your own point of view, what should be done, to take that up as a statement of deterrence to those who may want to perpetrate electoral violence in the future?
Well, one thing we must understand here is this. Regrettably, those who use these guys as thugs, their children are not part of them. Their children are not part of them. I recall when I was Commissioner of Police in Gombe State, way back 2003, just before the election at that time, I addressed the public on TV and on radio and all of that, and even at the meetings we held. And I told the youths, I said, look, if anybody comes to you to say, come and be a thug for me, tell him, sir, I hope your children are going to join us. And some of the politicians came to me and said, CP, so you want my child, so your child cannot do that, but you want somebody else's child to do that? We need to enlighten them, we need to educate them. We also need to encompass a lot of these things in the school curriculum from the primary to even up to university level. We need to tell them their do's and their don'ts and the consequences. All of this will go a long way in reshaping our society. So there's so much we need to do. When I talked about public enlightenment, sensitization, that can be extended to the churches, in the mosques, in the social electronic media, in town hall meetings, in banners or billboards here and there, telling people what not to do, and if you do it, this is what you get. There is a consequence. Because we are not doing much in that regard. A lot of people still think that they can do anything and get away with it, and they don't even see anything wrong with what they're doing, forgetting that they're breaching the laws. And that's why there's so much insecurity. Back to the statement you said the police used to make. That sounds like a broken record as far as I'm not concerned. Something happens today, tomorrow is so you're on top of the situation.
Beyond enlightenment, Mr. Gwadu, 700 is quite a number. And we have 18 political parties
you know that
participated in the presidential election, and even much more at the governorship level. Shouldn't we move beyond enlightenment, if we're going to send a statement of deterrence to say, okay, at the level of prosecution, so-and-so political party participated in electoral violence? Shouldn't we move to a culture of naming and shaming?
Look, sorry, I almost forgot that question, the issue you raised about the arrest of over 700 persons during the election period. We have a problem with the process of prosecuting suspects in this country. You'll be shocked that after 3, 4, 5, 6 months, nobody will hear about those cases anymore. Cases will be adjourned here and there. Some lawyers will be going there to defend the indefensible, justify the unjustifiable in court and all of that. All of these are compounding our problems. So if we can have a judiciary that attend to criminal offenses timeously, it will also go a very long way to solve this problem we're talking about now. It's not just enough to come and say on a daily basis, you're on top of the situation. A situation that's always on top of you. You are claiming you're on top of it. And nothing is changing.
No, but about this whole mix of, as you said, our prosecution process is somewhat flawed, if I get it correctly.
Yes.
And you talked about lawyers coming in to defend the indefensible and justify the unjustifiable.
Yes.
But what does that speak of our system? I mean, growing up, I do know that as the society itself was part of the security apparatus. But now it looks as if it's us against them. What changed, and how can we revert to what it used to be?
You see, in those good old days you're talking about, our moral values were highly respected and applied to. But these days, all of that has gone. Like I told you before, population was not in any way near what we have today now. And over there in the villages where we all came from, all the smaller towns, your child is also my child. So if I see your child misbehaving, I'll caution the child, call him or her to order. But these days, everybody's on his or her own. When you do that, and say, my friend, go and go. What's your business with that? So we have a lot of challenges, That's why I said, if there is a way we can encompass some of these things in the school curriculum, starting from the primary school, let us tell them, start with them when they're young. Don't do this. If you do this, is a consequence, this is a penalty. No, all of that is not being done right now. And, that's how I always talk about defending the indefensible. Not necessarily the lawyers alone. Justifying the justifiable. Not just lawyers alone. And of course, in the Constitution, there's a section of the Constitution that says that makes provision for presumption of innocence. And I've always said, I wish that section can be amended to say the person will be presumed innocent. But when proven innocent. But for somebody who is caught red-handed in the act, why would such presumption hold? He cannot presume innocent because he was caught red-handed in the act. So these are some of the amendments we need to have in our laws.
Okay, Alfred Honorable, this matter of moving beyond where we are, the Barrister Obaudu has talked about the fact that growing up, our moral values were there and they were applied across the society. But now one would think that with the advancing in technology and knowledge, we would apply it to those values and make the difference that we need. So if we're having this challenge, what do we need to do? How do we come out of this mix to the point where it's not just about fighting crime, but actually preventing it, consequence management, and against the laws that we have already?
You need to understand that sometimes when we want to deal with a problem and we are taking it from the top, the Nigerian situation seems to be a case of our trying to pluck the fruits of a tree to kill it rather than uprooting the trees. We have poverty as the base, as the foundation of most of these conflicts. And the type of poverty we have in Nigeria is not lack of money, lack or absence of money. It is a moral bankruptcy that has degenerated from time. One coming from abuse of public office, and like my statesman, Mr. Obadu just said, we have situations of public officers conducting the affairs of the state against the procedures and with utter impunity. There are no consequences. And this same group of people mutate to higher levels of leadership, and they continue to fester their virus on the general public or the society. And they seem to have also taken down the criminal justice administration systems, because if you look around, you find that, for instance, I can say confidently that over 40% of our security men are guarding few elements in our society, mostly political office holders and private citizens, rather than protecting the communities. And you will also find situations where you walk into an office, the man there does not have a future. The wage he takes home cannot address the needs and the challenges he faces: house rent, feeding, medicals, no functional facilities. So you see, it's generic. Now we are looking at developing people in this kind of environment. What kind of people do you think you are going to make out of them? It's impossible to have an insecure man, like I would always say, provide security for you. People are financially insecure. They are socially insecure. Now we have other threats eating into it. They can't even express themselves. We just had an election, and the reactions coming from the election shows that people, some section of the people were not satisfied, some felt disenfranchised. Even from the point of picking up PVCs, people felt that there were deliberate collusions and attempts by certain people to stop them from accessing their PVCs that would have helped them to make choices of who they make their leader and who makes decisions and manages their resources. So we are looking at poverty. Poverty not only being weaponized, poverty has become a vehicle driving the entire nation to our doom. People are not only poor that they don't have money, they have no regards for rule of law. They have absolute contempt for the lives and properties of others. You know, drug has also taken a place in the society. Now, I'm going to touch the issue of the drugs, because narcotics seems to be a free-for-all. If you go to check out some of the bandits, they live on drugs. How do they get these drugs? Where do they source them from? Which routes do they take to bring them into the country? And we have our borders. They are porous. The customs are doing their best. The immigrations are putting on. But listen, these same people are taken from here. If you go and assess the wealth of an average public officer, I can tell you, 60% of what they have did not come from their work. It came from alternative sources, which are not legitimate. So if we have to deal with it, I think it's time we sat down and begin to address the issue of merit, where we have to allocate opportunities and benefits rather than vest our future on people with character, people that, you know, by merit qualifies to do those assignments. We also have to look at this. I'm looking at the solutions, because we cannot enumerate the insecurity challenges and what goes with it just in sitting in one place. I can tell you that most of the public officers might not be even listening to what we're saying. They're not interested. The man is there hoping to make his own ends.
If I may come in here, and both of you have to weigh in on this. You talked about poverty and weaponized poverty. So let's just say poverty of the mind, poverty of money, poverty of morals, poverty of appreciation for life. Well, so generalizing poverty as here, poverty as it is. But does that negate the laws as they are right now? Because many will say our laws need to be amended, our laws need to be amended. But as the laws are, you a security expert, the barrister Obaudu here, a lawyer and a security expert as well. So does poverty negate the laws? How do we begin to enforce the laws as they are to the point that these violent attacks are curbed and ended once and for all?
The fact is that poverty comes with mental health issues. And you don't make laws for a madman. You can only make laws for a responsible, sane human being. A poor man is worse than a lunatic because he grabs any opportunity, he sees opportunities as lifelines. That's why people could sell, for instance, their PVCs or their votes for just mere 2,000 naira, when trillions are going to be budgeted across years for the development of the society. Poverty is worse than any disease we can imagine. And except those in authority begins to see the consequence and realign themselves, because these are agents of destruction in some sense. Where they are supposed to be builders of society, their morals cannot carry the assignments they are given to do. So you see them compromise on basic values. You see them compromise on key components of public service that could have helped people to align and behave better. So when you have those things away, and it's driven by poverty, if I don't know the value of clean water, I will assume that taking just any water will serve my thirst or quench my thirst. Now, the after effect is that I will contract diseases and sicknesses that could take or terminate my life. So that is the problem with poverty. And the type of poverty we have in Nigeria is not only chronic, it's demonic. It's human-induced. Go ahead.
Mr. Honorable, I just wanted to let you know, let me bring it here to Barrister Obaudu as we begin to add. Barrister Obaudu, weighing on this matter of poverty and how it affects the laws as they are. He's talked about we can't use poverty, you can't make laws for a madman. And the average person is, I mean, how would you respond to this?
To a large extent, I agree with what Mr. Ononubu has said, but let me also say too that poverty is not an excuse for one to go into crime. It's not. I mean, I was watching the television and I saw a blind person who was arranging, I think, different colors, was making, were they beads or something like that? I don't know, I was able to do that. People are not, even those that are physically challenged, some that say any money. But when you are not physically challenged, you are very sound in health and everything, you are not prepared to work, it's just because of the situation we find ourselves in this country. So everybody is looking forward to quick fix. Politicians see politics as a do or die affair. So a lot of, and nobody cares about the sufferings that the ordinary Nigerian is going through. And we see some others in living affluent life, so much affluence. And like I said before, what are they doing to warrant all of those? So these are the things. So a lot of Nigerians are frustrated and very angry as I'm talking to you now. Because we believe, I personally believe that this nation, Nigeria, will be so blessed with the resources we have in this country. We shouldn't be facing all these challenges we're having. Thank God, empowerment programs are beginning to come up at the federal level and in some states. But the percentage, the number of people being attended for now is grossly inadequate. We're talking a nation that has a population of over close to 200 million, if not more. And the population that is unemployed is so high.
Mr. Obaudu, in closing, in your closing thoughts, what do you say would do?
And all of these are affecting security. In conclusion, I will advise government to invest more in empowering the youths. And they should also be told that it doesn't pay to resort to crime. No, it doesn't. Do the needful. Abide by our laws. Get something to do to earn you an income. Start small and grow big. That's how it is in other political climes. So that's it, yes.
Thank you very much, Barrister Felix Ogbaudu is a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police and also Security Consultant. Thank you for speaking with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Back to you guys in Lagos.
All right, let's wind up, Mr. Anonigbo. Two issues. One is coming up today. The NGF will be discussing security votes. They'll be meeting with agencies, EFCC and the rest. So it speaks to the fact that there's actually some sort of funding for security. Whether or not it's done well is another case entirely. And I wonder what you'll be asking them to do about the security vote, which has been largely shrouded in secrecy. And just to add, I saw a post you put up in September 2021 saying you deeply sympathize with the individual who shall be taking over the saddles of leadership after PMB. And you went on to talk about some issues. Merge that together, because the security vote also spills over into the next administration anyway.
Yes. I like to put it in this way. Funds will not solve the insecurity problems in Nigeria. We need to begin to look at what kind of resources should we put on ground? What kind of opportunities should we create to accommodate generations of Nigerians who are developing their skills, their talents, and their capacity to engage? In the absence of effective management of these people, they will be vulnerable to ideas that will tend to drive them to crime. And also the fact that if you look at the funds that come even to the government, because security votes most times goes to the governors and some other agencies, a hungry man is an angry man. If you equip people to police people and you do not create opportunity for those people to become resourceful and productive, you are just creating anarchy. People will never value anything. Even those you are giving the money to will become part of the problem. And what we have seen is that we have resources going to agencies, and it turns out that individuals within those agencies become enemies to those agencies because they want to cash in on the funds, and they don't give anything back to the society in return. Now, people are scared, we live in an accountable society where you are held accountable for what you say in the public, and nobody wants to get the hammer. Now, the fact remains that we need to change the quality of leadership that has led us to this point.
Just to be specific,
yes.
Would you be advocating that the sole discretionary powers of the governor over the security vote be removed or tweaked?
Totally. Governors are supposed to be supervisors. They are not supposed to be owners and landlords. They are supposed to be public servants. And the kind of powers vested on the governors is making development of this country impossible. Look at the election. Most of the problems we had with funding and stuff, and even decisions on quality of election, are coming from governors. These are people who have excess power and they control funds. People want to, benefit and get patronage.
We really have to go, Mr. Anonigbo, but just to be clear, you said, in response to Bukola's question, you said security votes should be taken away from the governors. Then to who?
No, it should be put down on the ground. You see, there are...
Someone has to supervise.
Yes, the police have divisions. The sharing structure.
To whom should it be given?
It should be given to police, should be given to communities. Communities can protect themselves better than the police. And policemen are taken from these communities. That's why I'm one of the advocates of community policing. Because in community policing structure, they come from the community. They know the thieves. And there should be a prosecution system that takes care right from the grassroots. So if you are breaking the law within the structures of a community, they know you are a bigger threat to other people.
Okay.
The punishment will be swift and there will be lasting results.
And I think that's a great place to anchor. Mr. Alfred Ononugbo is a forensic investigator, criminal intelligence specialist, and security consultant. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been my pleasure out here. Thank you very much.
We'll take a moment now, switch gears, turn our attention to politics. Yes, elections may have come, but they have certainly not gone. That's in a moment. Stay with us.
Well, as Kari said earlier, the elections in Delta State have come, certainly not gone anywhere, and that's where we are going right now. Well, not just in Delta State, but Delta State specifically. Right now, we, have with us here Honorable Efe Ofobruko, who is a member Media Committee 2023 Governorship Campaign of APC in Delta State. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We also have with us Dr. Festus Okubo, who is Chief Strategist to the Governor of Delta State, joins us virtually from Asaba. Thank you for joining us this morning, Doctor. All right. Let's begin with you, Mr. Ofobruko. First of all, take us through this, what's happening, especially within your party. On the one hand, your party has rejected the results. Your candidate has rejected the results.
I have also rejected the results.
You have also rejected.
Are you different from your party?
Anyway.
I'm trying to emphasize the fact that
it's a round rejection.
But however, it's also in the news that your candidate has been expelled from the party. And even though there's been some other notice put out saying that's not true. Tell us what's happening about that first.
Okay, yeah, it's quite interesting. If you ask me, I think that's just a drama, storm in the teacup. But in a media giant like Channels Television, I believe you guys were actively involved in the congresses that led to the constitution of the party executive from the grassroots level to the national. I am very sure if you look at your archives, you have the records of those who emerged as the executive committee of the APC in Delta State. And those names, those characters you are seeing on the so-called letter purportedly written by the school.
That's Olebo Isaac you're referring to.
Yes, you know that those are not those names you see, they do not constitute the structure of the party. The state chairman of APC in Delta State is Mr. Omeni, though an elder in church, so most people refer to him as an elder. Omeni Sobotie is the state chairman of APC in Delta State. His name is not on that list. That is to tell you that the names you see there are just pretenders. But most importantly, 80% of those names written there were written without the knowledge and consent of the people.
Because they're members of your party as well.
Yes, they're members of the party. But written without the knowledge and consent of those people, 80 to 90% of them are not even executives of the party. Somebody just created signatures for them, while the others are domestic staff of Mr. Cairo Ojugbo. Because that document you are seeing in circulation was generated by Cairo Ojugbo, but funded by the PDP. If you look at the coverage
of that their letter. It is in practically every media today. Since yesterday, they have been reaching out to journalists across the nation, throwing funds. It's more or less like a paid advert.
What's the interest of Mr. Cairo Ojugbo? Pardon me.
Of course, in the last 2 weeks or so, Mr. Cairo Ojugbo has been in the media, and to the best of my records, as of last week, he was expelled by his ward.
He said that was done by the domestic staff.
Yes.
Your words are just...
Let me finish.
No, just to put it in context.
Yes.
Right? Just to put that.
Yes.
Because he used those words. Interestingly, he has used those words too.
Now, for example, somebody like Michael Inana that is on that list is a domestic staff from Dr. Cairo Ojugbo that I know very well. So he just created it. You can go to a business center and just create letterhead. Look at the letterhead. The name of our party is All Progressives Congress. That is the name of our party. But on that letterhead, you will see All Progressive Congress. A man that does not even know the name of his party cannot be an official of the party. That is to tell you that that letterhead was generated from a nearby business center, maybe even a printer in his house. And he just put names of anybody he feels like, created signatures, and of course, funded by the PDP, his players. You know, Cairo Ojugbo is a mercenary of the PDP in the APC. And they went to every media house to say this and that. The real leaders of the party, they have spoken, they have come up with a position that these people are impostors, they are pretenders, they are
thankfully, not a member of the PDP is on this panel, so let's ask him. Dr. Kubo, I mean, you've heard the allegation, if we can put it that way. How do you respond?
It is very sad, but clearly typical of the APC. Cairo Ojugbo, for instance, is known to have been the executive director appointed by President Buhari to NDDC as a prominent APC member. Now you are saying he's a mercenary of PDP. The APC is just a house of confusion. They are not, and that's part of the reasons why they lost the elections shamefully. It's a house of confusion. These are members of your party. A week after election, look at the confusion they have. So now you look back and ask, how did they go to the election? How could they have won? It's just a mess, and that's what they are. So I don't want to get involved in their internal, affairs. The more confusion they have, the better for me as a PDP member. I know they don't have the capacity to deal with the things in front of them. It's a big shame.
Are you denying that the PDP is in any way involved in this confusion, as you put it?
Absolutely. How? These are known senior members of the APC. And over time, you've been reading the papers, they've claimed to have been alienated by the gubernatorial candidates. They've all been out fighting each other, even when the elections were going on. They were busy. Oh, I was alienated, I was not alienated. We were campaigning. We were going from ward to ward, unit to unit. They were big. You also mentioned it just now. When Cairo Ojugbo was expelled, he also said those who were signatories to the expulsion letter were domestic staff of the gubernatorial candidate. Ofoburuku, my brother, is now saying those who expelled the OFA are domestic staff of Cairo. But the point is this, is that is the APC in Delta. Complete house of confusion.
All right, let's come to Honorable Ofoburuku naturally. And I'd like us to refrain from name calling. I mean, some of the people you mentioned are not here to speak for themselves, so it doesn't look like an attack on personality of these people. It's interesting, really, because you were in the PDP. Am I correct?
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time. And,
yes.
Some might say that, I mean, easily, are you a double agent yourself? But, that aside, let's talk about how, I mean, your candidate sounded like what this was going to happen for him. Okay, he had, a lot of backing, talk about the national, he had a lot of ground support too, but the elections came and saw the margin, 120,000 vote margin between them. And it looks like the PDP still maintains its hold on Delta State, and he talked about how you approached that election. Have you done some introspection and thought, okay, maybe we didn't approach the elections, there's still infighting within your party? You know, we just mentioned someone that was purportedly expelled. He said that, well, it wasn't done the right way. Have you done that introspection? Have you found out what exactly happened, such that, I mean, you have benefit of the PDP and the APC, so that you can say, okay, this is where we maybe got it wrong and we need to fix it?
Okay, thank you very much. But let me quickly say this. There's a local saying in my place in Delta, where I come from. You cannot work in a palm oil mill and not get stained. To that extent, I will say that this conversation cannot be complete if certain names are not mentioned. Because at this level, we should be putting things the way they are. We should be saying them the way they are.
Right, if you have the evidence, present it as well.
So let us go on with the discussion. Dr. Kubo just mentioned that the APC has issues, internal wranglings, and all of that. And I laugh. Dr. Kubo was one of those that was alienated by the present administration in Delta State. Himself was in the wilderness. He's just coming out of the wilderness, and they gave him that appointment as a chief strategist. And today he's talking about people being sidelined and whatever. But in any case, that is not the case in the APC.
Did he tell you he was in the wilderness, or this is just your own reading?
You said something that I used to be in the PDP, which means we know ourselves very well. So I was director of admin.
So he told you?
I was director of admin in the Okowa campaign in 2019. I served 2 tenures in the House of Assembly. I was special advisor on legislative matters, which means I was in the government. So I can tell you some things that must have transpired in the government, or some things happening in the government. You must have also wondered why I had to leave the PDP. So
were you in the wilderness as well?
I did just find myself in the wilderness. I found myself behind the wilderness. I was taken far, far deep inside the wilderness. And I'm an active person. I know that I still have so much to offer, and I realize that that place
Can you break that down for us? We're outside the wilderness.
We'll leave that for another discussion. Let us take the issues that have been raised already. Now, like I said earlier, Dr. Kairo Jugbo is a mercenary of the PDP in the APC. He was expelled by his word.
What proof do you have?
The expulsion, I will address the issues one by one. The expulsion was duly ratified by the State Working Committee of the APC. We have equally communicated with the national. So his expulsion followed due process according to Article 21 of the APC Constitution. Unlike this caricature, this mockery of what some persons are trying to do, well, we are not rattled, we are not bothered.
They also cited Article 21. It's like
most importantly,
copying from the same handbook.
No, most importantly, Dr. Kubo talked about our party not being together, hence we did not approach the elections the way we should. Are you aware that 2 local government chairmen have been sacked from office by the present PDP administration in Delta State after the elections because they believe that those chairmen worked in tandem with the APC? Are you aware that more than 10 councillors have also lost their seats in their various local governments thanks to the PDP administration in Delta State?
Are you aware on the PDP?
No, I'm trying to address the issue I just want you to realize that the fire in the PDP is even worse than the internal wrangling that is in the APC. And let me say, we did not lose that election. We won the election the way the election should be won.
But that's not what the result says. APC won in 4 local governments.
What you have today that is being referred to as a result is a result that is wearing makeup. And that's why we have gone to the tribunal to say, please, sir, help us remove the makeup from this result. Because what you are seeing, what is being paraded is not the outcome of the election.
Are you twisting the judiciary to rule in your favor or nothing else?
Of course, rule in our favor. We are not asking for too much. Just wipe the makeup from the result.
What if evidence shows otherwise?
You see the truth. I can tell you that it will not show otherwise.
Do you have your own result sheets?
We have the unit results from the various units. Collect the unit results. Let's see the outcome. We know the manipulations that took place.
You are saying categorically that your results are different from what was uploaded to the IREF portal.
We are saying that what is uploaded does not tally with what was declared in Asaba. That is what we are saying. Okay. And we are also aware of the manipulations that they did in connivance with some blacklegs in our party and some unscrupulous elements who are agents of the umpire, who's supposed to be unbiased.
Okay, let's go to Dr. Cooper, but you didn't provide proof, or at least refer to any proof you have for claiming
of which of the issues?
That Mr. Karojugo is a double, that's your term, a double agent. Or what was the term exactly you used?
Mercenary,
right.
Yes.
What is the proof you have? It's important to also back that.
Okay, so we will conclude today's conversation. We'll schedule another day to continue so that I can bring video evidence. First, before the elections, Dr. Karojugo called meetings in his house in his hometown, Eliame, where he held meetings with our party faithfuls and told them, in quote, that the leaders have met at the national level have agreed that they should vote a certain party, certain individual.
When you say our party, do you mean PDP or APC?
He was telling the APC people in his community that the leadership of our party, they have met at national level and agreed that certain individuals of certain parties should be voted for during the election for certain positions.
Not the APC.
Not APC candidates. Vote for this person of this party for this position. Vote for this person of this party for this position. Vote for that party.
And you can back this up with proof.
I am telling you that I have video evidence that I can provide to this station. And this is a man who calls himself a leader, a critical stakeholder. If you know the history of Dr. Karojugo, if you follow his political antecedents, you will know that this is his stock in trade. You were in this station when he acted the drama of fainting at the National Assembly because he needed to provide the books and records of the NDDC where he was a member of the Carrying Management Committee.
Again, I mean, those are your views. It's important to note that this is not
except you are telling me you didn't watch the video where somebody fainted at the National Assembly.
I mean, describing it as a drama again. What if it wasn't? So that's your view. But
let's go to that one.
I mean, let's go to Dr. Kubo.
Just to add that Mr. Karojugo has the right of reply on the program.
So, Dr. Kubo, I mean, lots of issues have been raised, and I don't know how you want to respond to it, starting from the point he made about a certain wilderness which he believes that you were in.
You can see why the APC lost the elections. On national television, it's all about eating up their members and letting the world see their dirty linens that we are not interested in seeing, quite frankly. Now, in terms of wilderness, that is part of what has put Nigeria where we are. Everybody believes, oh, I am in office today, I must be in office forever. I got contract yesterday, I must get contract today. And at the slightest inconvenience, they are jumping ship, clay-footed politicians, jumping from PDP to APC, from APC to whatever. So much so that in what their gubernatorial candidates, in 1 year, changed parties, 5 different parties. And he wants to be governor of Delta State. Now, I was a national public secretary of GDM, and I've been in PDP. I have seen good nights, I have seen bad nights. I remain in PDP, and I work for PDP. I'm not in politics because of pecuniary interests. Talking about wilderness, I have never, God forbid for me to ever be in any wilderness. I am a child of God. But the period you didn't see me on my brother, I was chairman of Gov'ship Polytechnic. I was chairman of Ozoro Polytechnic. And when I had time, apart from my farming work, when I had so much time in my hands, I went and enrolled as an undergraduate at the Delta State University. I was reading music full time. I just graduated in September. My convocation is in this April on the 28th. I came out with a first class. I'm not idle. I was not in the wilderness. And even in school, I was doing my work. I was a chief strategist. I've been chief strategist for over 2 years. I don't make noise with my work. My work is not to report to you. So I don't know what you talk about wilderness, but you can see the motives that make people jump from one party to the other.
All right, Dr. Kubo.
Yes.
Yes. Just 1 second. My colleague Neota has a question or two for you in Abuja. Neota.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kubo. I like the way you started your last submission from pulling back to strengthen yourself, to empower yourself, to continue to do what you do, as you say, serving the people. But I just want to ask a question, and the question is, in all of this, where do the people of Delta State come in? Where are the desires of the residents of Delta State in all of these activities that you have been carrying on? How does that help the people of Delta State?
For instance, we worked hard to ensure that we did not allow bandits to take over governance in the state. We worked hard, and the PDP clearly won the elections. We beat them, and it is because of the people. It is not because of us. I am 63. Like I told you, I just graduated from school. I went to live with the students. I know the pains of these young ones. You don't even know how these children are surviving. Brilliant young boys, brilliant young girls, determined to succeed with so much obstacles in front of them. Most people in offices do not know what they are going through. And we went through all of that. And so we bring all this to the fore, and let those who are in position of decision making know exactly what these children are feeling and how to deal with them. And let me tell you, the youths of Delta are very vibrant. They are vibrant. They are ready to work. They are very educated. They are very brilliant.
I'm glad you mentioned the youths of Delta. They're ready to work, very vibrant, very educated. And if you do a survey, do you think they're really interested in the internal wranglings of the political parties as much as the governance has been delivered to them?
That's why I said it earlier on, I'm not interested in all the wranglings the APC is bringing up on this program. What we are looking at is how do we provide empowerment for these young ones? How do we make them find work after graduating? How do we make them fully engaged? Because if we don't, society is at risk.
Okay, Mr. Okubo, if you don't mind, let's take this to Lagos. Let's bring in Ofobruku. Ife, you had spoken earlier about your party and all that you've done for the elections, before the elections, during the elections, and after. And my colleagues have asked you questions as regards the internal wranglings within your party. Some people have been expelled, you say, for anti-party activity. And I like the fact that Buki mentioned that one of them has a right of reply. And then some other people have also been expelled from the party. For instance, allegedly expelled the Deputy Senate President. Again, that question I asked Dr. Okubo, do you think Deltans are interested in the internal wranglings of your party as much as they're interested in the level of service that you and your party members have vowed to deliver to them?
Well, thank you, Neta. But it's important that some of the issues that were raised by Dr. Okubo, I respond to them quickly before I go to that. Dr. Okubo was Chief of Staff, Government House. I'm surprised he's just learning now that the students in Delta State are not comfortable. At 63, when he was Chief of Staff, what effort did he put in towards making sure that there's improvement in education in Delta State? He talked about my principal leaving one party to another. Who started jumping from party to another in the history of this democracy? It's Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, when he sat as a PDP vice president under the Obasanjo administration, and at the same time, he was Action Congress presidential candidate. And he has moved from one party to the other, to the other, to the other. The question that he should ask himself, if you have a party and people are living in droves, they are running to another party, you should know that something is wrong. Check the records of the resignation that took place before the election. A lot of people, political office holders, party members, party officials resigned, dropped the umbrella, and embraced the broom. They left the PDP and came to the APC. In Delta State, the records are there. In Ika South local government, the federal constituency of Dr. Festus Okumbo, as I speak to you, the former secretary to the state government, Mr. Shedwebe, was suspended, and many others from that local government. So what I'm saying to you is that the crisis in Delta State PDP, even as they claim to have won, is worse than any crisis in any of the parties anywhere in Nigeria. In Delta State today, we have a situation where, like we say in my place, the shouting side is the winning side. But in Delta State, the winning side is the quiet side. Why? Because it's stolen victory. And the silence in Delta just now is so loud that everybody is wondering. You claim to have won, yet you are the one that is hiding. You should win and celebrate. Let people see you celebrate. But because they know that the victory will evaporate soonest. than they imagine. That is why they have been in hiding. So Dr. Kubo cannot come to national TV like this and be trying to, to cleverly dissociate himself from the failure that is today known as Delta State PDP.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Can you answer the question how much you think the Deltans are interested in all the internal wrangles? The reason
why Deltans are concerned is because they see the APC Delta State as their hope, as their future. And from nowhere, some other hands are trying to cause crisis in the APC, in Delta State. So they are pained. They know that what Dr. Cairo Jugo and his cohorts are doing, they know that it is being funded, being sponsored by certain underhands. They know. Of course, Dr. Ojugbo himself used to be in PDP. They know his antecedents. Once upon a time, he led a protest in Asaba to the government house gate, in which he said he went to serve quit notice on Dr. Kowa, the governor, to quit government house. So we know that it's a hireling that can be hired for any purpose at any time politically. Who knows? Tomorrow he may be doing the same thing for Labour Party. And another day he could be in the NNPP doing the same thing. It's what he's known for. So if Dr. Okubo is today pretending not to be aware, of course I know his pretense, he knows that they are look, just go and check the media space today. It's everywhere in the news, even though everybody knows that it's just a fluke, but it's everywhere. The Deputy Senate President has been expelled. The Deputy Senate President has been expelled. They think that will rattle us or maybe cause any form of embarrassment. We have since moved beyond that. Our eyes are on the ball. Our eyes are on the ball, and that is what we are pursuing. The people of that are only concerned that this our hope that we are looking up to, what is going on, and we have done a lot of work to try to, to douse the tension, to make them know that it's just a fluke, nothing is happening. We are together as a political family. We are working hard to see that whatever we have set to achieve, we achieve. But let me put it on record. I did not leave PDP on account of wilderness experience. Oh, wow. The wilderness experience, yes, the wilderness experience is just one of those things, like Okubo said, that you can experience. I left the PDP because I do not believe in the candidacy of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Right Honorable Sheriff Oborevwori. Sheriff Oborevwori was my colleague in the assembly. I do not believe in their candidacy. I believe strongly that 2023 is the turn of the South to produce president. Then secondly, I do not believe in the capacity of the individual that is being paraded for governorship in Delta State, in PDP. I am very much aware that Right Honorable Sheriff Oborevwori is more or less the third term of Governor Kowa. I know him very well. We were in the assembly together. We sat in the same assembly for 4 years. I supervised him for 2 years as special advisor on legislative matters. So somebody I know his capacity. I cannot support a man that does not have capacity for the job to get the job done. People, square pegs should be put in square holes. These were the reasons why I left the PDP.
Close to attack on individual. Go ahead, NC.
Mr. Fabuku, you've refused to let us interject or come in to ask you any question. You've gone on, and you've mentioned some names here of people who are not even here to defend themselves. I hope you know that you're taking responsibility for this. But moving on real quick, you were once in PDP, and you say you did not leave on account of a wilderness experience, but you want the Delta State residents and citizens of Delta State to believe in your drive for their future. But your house is not stable, and you want to blame somebody else outside for the instability in your house. Why do you do that?
It is very simple. I will give you a simple analogy. Like I said before, I left the PDP because I do not believe in the candidates they are putting for president and governor. That is my view. That is I had this conversation with even His Excellency, the governor of the Delta State, because he invited me for a meeting. He asked me, and I told him that for this, I do not pretend. I can't be in a party and be doing anti-party. I can't pretend to be in the PDP and I'm working against the presidential candidate and working against the governorship candidate. No. So I had to leave to support those I believe have capacity to get the job done.
Let me quickly take this to Mr. Kubo as we wind down. Mr. Kubo, you say that you've emphasized that there's division in the APC house and you'd rather not get involved. But despite this division, the APC was able to scoop 2 senatorial seats, and even the LP won 1 seat as well. I'm not quite sure now if that's one of the House of Reps seats. apart from that, in the presidential election, the PDP didn't put up a strong showing, and one could say that that's a vote of no confidence, even on the administration of the incumbent in the state at that level. So you would say that all politics is local, and then the PDP won the election at the state level. But then again, the argument could go back and forth to mean that the party has deployed state might to win the election in that state at the state level. How do you weigh in on this?
No, look, let's be realistic. The national election this year was quite an eye-opener to all Nigerians. And I've said it. I'm writing an article which I said, thank you. Thank you very much, obedience. You just gave me a new set of eyeglasses. Now, in Delta State, Labour Party won. The next party with about 160,000 votes, 150,000 votes was PDP. APC had 90,000 votes at the presidential election. So from the presidential election, APC was never a match to PDP. For the National Assembly elections, out of the 12 seats, PDP had 7. So they were never a match. Now, talking about jumping from one party, part of the problems of this country is discipline. And it is very foundational to what we do and how we govern and how we lead the society. A man has a wife. Because the wife's okra soup is not the way he thought it should taste, he divorces, jumps out of the home. A child is not doing well in school, you jump out. Instead of sitting down to help the child go through her lessons, instead of building your home, you are jumping to create new homes all over the place. And so they carry it from their personal lives into politics. You are uncomfortable with a decision in the party you belong, you are jumping out.
But Dr. Kubo, it's interesting that
the APC, where I compare them to a wrestler who was so boastful, empty boast, and had so many supporters. But as soon as he got into the ring and he was slammed very badly, all his supporters kept quiet and moved away. That's what happened to APC. They make so much noise over nothing.
Well,
the
Dr.
PDP beat them at the presidential election. The PDP beat them at the national assembly election.
I guess that will be confirmed, Dr. Kubo, because already all of these conversations have been taken to the next level of the judicial process. I guess time will tell to affirm or overturn the results that's been announced. But for now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation. Dr. Festus Okubo is Chief Strategist to the Governor of Delta State, joins us virtually from Asaba in Delta State, as well as Honorable Efe Ofobruko, who is a member, Media Committee 2023 Governorship Campaign of the APC in Delta State. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
All the best. Well, your own feedback on this program, your contribution to it, starts with this one from Olagunjo Oladele, talking about national security. Says the realization of the national security system and the management of micro and macro are entrusted to the federal government, of which macro management is lacking, and the underlying effect for managing security issues. Security has evolved outside the traditional security perimeter, which requires a holistic view of the security architecture. We need an umbrella deployment and an integration that provides a strong security posture that covers both micro and macro security architecture.
We'll take a look at this one from Henry on curbing violent attacks, saying it is obvious that the retired security personnel are not tired. The states and the nation should re-engage the retired security personnel as advisory board.
Interesting. Let's take this one from Professor Imono Kainakina. He says the rising cost of living, the increasing unemployable population, poverty, the over 13 million kids out of school, I guess that has been revised to over 20 million, have become the conduit of recruitment by this merchant of death, in bracket terrorist organization, and the incurable rise in inflation is a seemingly inevitable consequence of insecurity that now pervades the country.
And then we have this one from Festus Akimboewa, and he says, sadly, there are many misguided people in our country, and the just concluded elections may have thrown up some misguided people. Security agencies must pay serious attention to all types of extremism before they lead to more violence.
Well, I guess that's how the program ends today. Thank you so much for your own contribution to the program and for being a part of it for the past 2 hours. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
From here, I am Bukola Kuka. Thank you for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow.
All that talk about palm oil and okra has got me hungry. But hey, I'm Kairi Kikilo. Have a splendid day ahead.
And thank you for letting us be a part of your morning. I'm Neo Tagbe. Have yourself a beautiful rest of the day.